Hello, my friends. Lori Ashcraft here again with you. I'm your host for another episode of Viva la Evolution, produced by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, which is a training and consulting branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And yes, you'll notice that we've picked up some lovely sponsors along the way, and I just want to thank them so much for supporting what we do. And also, if you would not mind subscribing, that would help us out a lot. And if you push that little bell by subscribe, it'll tell you each time we put up a new podcast. So please do that. That would help us out. Okay, today is going to be a little bit different. Today, we have a very special guest that I met at the very beginning of my career in human services. I was probably 20 years old, and this was about 60 years ago, so a long time. And I had a job. That's my dog. I don't know what to do. Just leave her there, I guess. I had a job in a welfare department. This is my first real job. And so I was given this little plastic briefcase and a list of people that were going to be on my caseload, as they called it. And I needed to go out and visit them and figure out what they needed and try to help them somehow. And the first person I came across was named William. So William is going to be our guest today. And I've written out William's story, and it's the blog. So if you want to print the blog out and read it along with me, you can do that. Something to pay attention to in this story is, well, I'll tell you, as I go through the story, I'll be pointing out the learning moments. And I'm not trying to give you techniques here. I'm trying to give you a way of being. So try to stay out of the mindset of learning techniques and just stay in a place of this is how we be when we do this work. Okay, so the first part of the story is connecting with the person instead of the problem. This is my first lesson. So again, William is about the first person I go to see, and took me half a day to find him. This is at the northern tip of the San Joaquin Valley in California. So, and it's summer, and it's hot and sticky, and I'm driving an old beat-up rattletrap county car that, of course, doesn't have any air conditioning. And I'm driving out to this old ranch because this is where William has been placed. And on my way out there, I'm remembering what I read in his chart. I'm going to read you what his chart said about him. It said, he is a 42 YO cock male schizophrenic. That's how he was described. I go on to say, too bad he's not described more accurately. Once I got to know William, I describe him like this. William has a heart of gold. He's very kind. Despite his vulnerabilities, he's very courageous. Despite being misunderstood most of his life, he's very understanding. He has no friends, but he will make a great friend if someone gives him a chance. In spite of being diagnosed with schizophrenia, William connects positively with others and easily wriggles his way into their hearts. He certainly did mine. Now, just a little bit more about me at this point. I'm struggling with undiagnosed depression and anxiety. Feeling a little better about myself, having a job. But I hadn't really learned yet. William teaches me this, but I hadn't really learned yet how to be with someone in a way that I'm really connecting with them. I'm really present. I'm right there. I'm feeling with them. But I'm not at their level of consciousness. And when I train people to do this, I say, try to be in two places at the same time. So you're there, you're present, you're right with them, you're connecting, you're intending to be connecting. But there's another part of you that pulls back a little ways. And you can think of it as the part of you that has your back. And that part of you is balancing that part that's right in there. And what that part is doing is it's looking for every opportunity to find a strength to reinforce, to find something to connect to that's positive. And when you can balance those two things, you can be right with someone, feeling with them, and not taken down by their level of consciousness. You need not, if you go there, what happens is you can't pull them out. You're as stuck as they are. But if you can stay back a little bit, get in there close and feel and be, but part of you's back, looking for strengths, you can hold your ground. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about boundaries. I don't like it when we talk about boundaries. I know we have to have them. I read all the books, blah, 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 boundaries. Professional distance. If we get so caught up in staying away from people or keeping them away from us, we're giving up our most effective tools. Our most effective tools is our presence and our intention to be with them. The minute we give that up, we're just another guy walking down the street with a clipboard or with a folder or with a syringe. So don't think of boundaries here. You don't need to. Just think of being there and being back here at the same time. So when I first met William, I hadn't learned this yet. So once I met him, I thought about him all the time. Well, first of all, let me read a little bit more of the story for you. William was born in a state hospital and spent most of his life there. Now, with a meager income from his Social Security disability check, he lives by himself in a rented buck house on a ranch on the outskirts of a hot, dusty little town. I spent half the day trying to find him, and once there, I had to step over sticky weeds, cow corrals, dust, and a few other things you can imagine. And I knock on his door several times before he opens it. He probably feels sorry for me, standing there, looking lost, in the heat, in the dust. So he opens the door and lets me in. And the minute I walk in, this giant dog, I mean, it probably wasn't as big as I think it was, but it was like a big German Shepherd type dog. And he puts his paws right here on me like this. I'm standing up, and he's got his paws here. And I've got my purse over here, and I got my little briefcase over here. And I don't know what to do. And he's so close that he's fogging my glasses. And William doesn't seem to think there's anything wrong with this. So we just kind of stayed there for a while until the dog got tired and finally got down. And then he just kept circling. But anyway, the dog's name was Max. Okay. So once inside, William tells me his story of growing up in the state hospital and recently being placed here on the ranch. He has no friends, and he's sure the cowboys are making fun of him and deliberately tormenting him. And I did see some evidence of this, so I'm sure this was not a delusion on his part. This was actually happening. Inside, I noticed that there's a lot, I don't know, maybe 100 bottles of water. Big bottles, little bottles. They're lining the walls. They're in the kitchen. They're in the front room. And this is happening, William tells me, because he's convinced that the water supply is running out. This is just one of the things he's afraid of. He proceeds to tell me about a lot of things he's afraid of, most things, real and perhaps otherwise, I'm not qualified to say. And he spends most of his time worrying about what's going to happen next. So this is his state of mind. And not knowing yet how to do this 2 places at one time, I'm completely bought into all of this. By the time I drive off in my Rattletrap County car, I thank God for that overbearing dog, because now I'm fearing for William's safety as much or more than he does. I worry that the men on the ranch will continue to be mean to him. I worry that he'll run out of food to eat. I worry that he'll be friendless and lonely. And I worry that he'll have to go back to the hospital. Every time I think of him, which is often now, my heart sinks. I have connected at the heart level, which is good, a prerequisite for being able to authentically support him. But not knowing how to maintain a state of positive consciousness, I am now incapable of supporting or empowering him. I have to start learning this, and William teaches me this. Because I'm now as worried and hopeless as he is. My worries don't end when I leave work. I worry about William when I'm buying groceries, doing the laundry, feeding the dog, pulling weeds out of the garden. Every time I think of him, my heart sinks. And I feel helpless to know how to help him. What's happened here, as I kind of mentioned earlier, but just to kind of tie it up, is I've accidentally connected my compassion to William's problems instead of to William himself. I'd like to tell you that I learned this once and for all from William. No. This was just the first time I learned it. I had to keep learning it. I probably know it now. It's taken a long time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. So I continue to see William every month for at least the next year. And he assumes that I'm visiting him because I'm planning to readmit him to the hospital. As miserable as his existence is at the ranch, he dreads the thought of returning to the hospital more than anything. So what he starts to do is he starts concentrating on reassuring me that he's all right. Now, I have since learned to use this purposefully with people, but I didn't know it then. William's teaching me this now. Our conversations usually start with me standing on the front porch, either muddy or dusty, depending on the weather. And most of the time it kind of sounds like this. William, it's me. Are you in there? I brought some red licorice for us. Can you come to the door? A little pause, and then he goes, no. So I say, how's your dog Max? I bet he misses me. And then William says, are you alone? Did they come with you? I say, I'm alone. It's just me. They didn't come. And he goes, okay, I'll let you in. But give me a minute. I got to get ready first. And then usually takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know what he's doing in there, but he's getting ready, he says. So it's all right. Finally he comes to the door. And Max, of course, who's become very fond of me by now, because he knows I have licorice, squeezes through the door past William and begins his sniff tests. You know, he sniffs my pockets, he sniffs my hands. You know, dogs, they sniff everything. So he's sniffing. And then finally I can go in. Max comes in. William and I sit down in two rickety chairs. I don't know how they even held us up, but they did. And Max circles and pants. This is a ritual for every visit. And I get out the licorice. And I offer William some, and I have some. And of course, we give Max some. And there's something, I don't know what it is. In this case, it was licorice. It might be something else for somebody else, but we could chew on that licorice, and it was like a bonding thing. So we'd be eating the licorice, and William would eventually say, "What do you want this time?" And he's kind of with a suspicious voice, more like, "What do you want this time?" More like that. And I say, "Nothing." And he says, if you take me away, if you take me back to the hospital, there'll be no one to take care of Max. And I say, "I know that. I didn't come to take you away. Let's eat this licorice before it gets too old." So we sit there and we eat our licorice. And it's just a sweet time. You've had those sweet times. Just a sweet time. Just being together. Just kind of communing on a non-verbal level. Rocking back and forth in our chairs a little bit. I'd probably stay an hour, maybe, about that. And then I go. He stands on the porch and watches me all the way to the car. Max stands there with him. And then I drive away. And then in my story I say, probably because none of the terrible things happened that we had worried about, we both become more relaxed and less fearful with each visit. Here's an interesting thing. The bottles of water, which kind of serve as a symbol of fear, are fewer in number each week, each time I go. And we don't say anything. I don't say, "Oh, where'd all the water go?" And he doesn't say, "Less water." It's just, we both just know it, but we don't talk about it. So I call this part, by the way, supporting wellness, because William is talking to me about how well he is, and I'm agreeing. I'm just agreeing. And as little reinforcement as one visit a month is, it seems to be working, along with a few other things. So while this is going on, William inadvertently teaches me how to support wellness in ways that appear to be casual and natural. Because if I got into kind of a I'm the therapist thing, this wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. It had to be more like, we're sort of friends, we're sort of colleagues, we're sort of partners on this journey together. I bring the licorice, you bring the dog. We sit here and we talk about how well you're doing. And he brings it up. He's always bringing it up. Sometimes if he misses something, I'll bring it up. I'll say, "Well, and there's this." So this goes on. This started early, like maybe the second visit, and like at least 12, 13 more visits. This is how it went. The whole time I'm learning how to do this. I'm being taught how to do this. He was a wonderful teacher. So as we chew on the licorice, William tells me how well he and Max are doing. He goes on and on. And me just listening and sometimes reflecting back or getting excited about things, then he gets it better. And then what starts happening is he starts taking these skills, these stories about himself and his way of being with me, to the cowboys. And they start liking him. I mean, they don't see him as a cowboy. They call him Willie. And they start to, the the first thing they did is they taught him how to chew snuff. I sort of wish they hadn't done that, but that's what they did, and it seemed to work. So they do this together now. They do this snuff thing together, and it deepens his connection with them and reinforces and builds his social skills. Now, so this is all happening. Okay, this is happening over the course of a year. He's making friends, not so scared, settling in a little bit. And I start to realize that now that he has these friends, and they're sort of watching out for him, that he doesn't need me that much anymore. And that, that was a double-edged experience. I'm just going to read this part because I think it'll be better if I do. My last visit with William takes place in early spring. He's ready with the toughest lesson for me yet. I have to keep relearning this one over the years because it's a hard one. There's more rain than usual this particular spring. Mud, cow poop, all kinds of things, ranch smells. And William places some old boards along the path that I tightrope along so I don't get too muddy. I have the red licorice in my coat pocket, and I hum as I balance along the boards. I leap from the last board to the front porch step and knock loudly on the door. No answer. No dog barking. No commotion rattling around getting ready. William, it's me. Can I come in? No answer. This has not happened before. I knock and call again, but no response. A drape of dread falls over me, and I stand paralyzed by fear on the front porch, not knowing quite what to do. Has he fallen? Has he been taken back to the hospital? Heart attack? Stroke? My mind was going nuts. And then I heard this voice behind me saying, hello? But I don't hear it because I'm going, William, come to the door. William, come to the door. Then I hear it again. I hear, are you looking for Willie? I turn around. There's one of the cowboys. I said, yes, he's not answering the door. And he says, yeah, I know. He rode into town with Bob this morning. They both needed a haircut. And we made a doctor's appointment for Willie because he just ain't getting over that cold. Max went too, you know how he is. I was so relieved. And he says, you want to go inside? I said, no, I think I'll just go. And I said to him, do you like red licorice? He says, I love that stuff. So I gave him my whole pocket full. So I said, I won't worry any longer. Just tell Willie hello for me. I drive on to my next stop, engulfed in a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. William and Max are moving on. He's beginning his new life with real people. This is good, and I'm so proud of him. Yet I'm left with feelings of loss. There's some legitimate grieving to do, because I did have the courage to connect at a heart level with him. And I may never see him again. But beyond legitimate, there's an emerging fear related to my sense of self-worth. The fear wants me to grab William and Max, pull them back, take care of them in order that I can feel worthwhile. But somewhere at the speed of insight, I gain a few moments of consciousness around the dynamics of power. This is the beginning of me understanding the critical step of shifting power to the person who's trying to recover. I don't keep the power. What's the point? I've got to give it away. They need their own power, and my job is to reflect the evidence of their power to them and reinforce it. After all, they're the ones trying to recover, so they need all the power they can get to do this. It's just like William to save the hardest lesson for last. This was hard. This was hard. My ego wants validation that I'm a good person, one who helps others, one who's weller and stronger than those I help. If I hang on to William and Max and all the others and insist on caretaking them, I can feel worthwhile, but it keeps them small. I will rob them of their power this way. And when they don't make any improvements, I will have no grounds to validate my own work or my skill as a professional. I must find my own power within me and not take it from others. Then we can both get stronger. So I let go, but I don't stop loving them. There's still a little place in my heart where I hold William and Max. They'll stay there forever. I hold a place for them without holding on to them. I care for them without caretaking them. Letting go leaves me feeling alone and a little empty. But as time goes by, I learn that if I can just stay in that empty place, hold it open for as long as I can, without filling it with distractions, I can find more of my own self, my own strength. This is how I get bigger and stronger, not by robbing power from others. So that's the William story. I sometimes tell this often in trainings because it seems to get points across that get missed if you just rattle them off. And I think it makes clear the idea that it isn't about learning techniques. You can do that anywhere. You can read books, you can go to classes. People are happy to teach you techniques. Do this and then do that and then do that. And then if they do this, you do that. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to do this work, this heart work, it's not technique. It's a way of being. And if you're in this business, you already have it in your heart to do that. You may already be doing that. If you're not, you can learn it. People will teach you. Let the people you're serving teach you how to do this. I have found them to be my best teachers. My very, very best teachers. So, thank you for spending this time with me. I've written many stories about my early experiences of learning. If you want to hear others, let me know. I'd be happy to tell more stories. Have other guests, other invisible guests join us. So, okay, I think we're done. Nice being with you, and see you next time. Take care. So, just want to add a kind of a PS onto this and say that this whole thing of holding on to folks sometimes happens in programs today. Residential programs are especially vulnerable to this. And sometimes it has to do with maybe conservators not being willing to let someone go when they're ready to go. It might have to do with housing not being available to people when they're ready to go. But something I've seen over and over is when a person is ready to go, if they aren't able to go, they roll back into a more regressive state. In other words, they can't hold that level of wellness when they're waiting very long because they're ready to take that next step. So the sooner we can move people on when they're ready, the better. At Crestwood, we have this saying, and I think Ruth Gonzalez deserves credit for this. I think she's the one that came up with the slogan. And the slogan is, not 1 minute more. And that means that we notice when people are ready to go. And we make every effort to find the right place for them and to move them on when they're ready. Because again, when you hold people back, they can't hold that space. And we can't hold it for them because there's nothing to do except sit there. So just a little nudge to keep things moving when people are ready to go. Okay, bye again.